find my talk reasonably palatable, but I apologise if you have just had your lunch and you don't find it palatable. So I'm talking about the nanomembrane toilets. This is a big project that's been running across the university. We've got a lot of people involved, as you can see from the long list of people there, and obviously it's been a real team effort. There's been real expertise and graft contributed from across the university, and I'm the one standing up here, but by all means I might not know the person that's done all the work. So I'd like to certainly acknowledge my collaborators here and say what a pleasure it's been to actually work across the university on this project. Also, while I'm having a bit of have a little bit of a boast, I'd like to report that we were awarded highly commended at the Regown Award ceremony on Monday night. So that was we were really pleased to be asked to represent the university in the research and development category, and then even more pleased when the judges were selected as a finalist and then awarded a highly commended award. So that's great, but again, not me at all, certainly a big team effort. Okay, so what is the nanomembrane toilet, and why are we developing it? Let me give you a bit of background. Starting thinking about some statistics. So what this map shows is the use of improved sanitation in urban areas. And what I'd like you to focus on is the countries listed in orange, because in these countries less than 50% of people have access to sanitation if they live in a city. So you can see that's quite a lot of Africa, I think that's Bolivia, and Nepal as well in Asia. So quite a considerable proportion of the world don't have access to sanitation. What does that mean? Here are the graphic photos coming up. So that might mean they're what we call open defecating. They're going outside to go to the toilet. Obviously this is not very hygienic, not very safe, particularly for women going outside, probably under the cover of darkness, to go to the toilet. So this is clearly not an ideal situation. Maybe they have something like this. This is a toilet that I photographed in Mozambique. And it seems to be a pile of tyres, and I think the idea is you sit on top of the pile of tyres and do your business in that. But you can see it seems to be leaking. Not a very pleasant place, not a very hygienic place to go to the toilet, and certainly a lot of health risks there. Maybe you have to use a communal toilet. So this is a toilet block I photographed in Kumasi in Ghana. You can see ladies on the right, men on the left. So this means that rather than having a toilet in your home, every time you want to go to the toilet, you've got to go outside, go along to the toilet block, maybe there's a queue, and when you get inside, what's it like? Well, I don't know how many of you share a kitchen, probably in your offices across Cranfield, I've seen some, and the state of them is, well, probably not as nice as your kitchen at home, for sure. And it works the same with a communal toilet. Because it's communal, no one really takes responsibility for cleaning, no one leaves it as clean as they would leave the toilet at home. So it can end up looking a little bit like that. So communal toilets are clearly not a really good sanitation solution either. Well, what about a simple solution? So a pit latrine. So this is a pit latrine in Antananarivo. I think they knew I was going to take this photo because it's actually quite clean. They clearly swept it up. Yeah, that's quite nice. It's not too bad a place to go to the toilet. And it's probably a great facility for the people that live there. But what happens when it gets full? Well, if you live in a rural area, you can just cover the latrine over, move that slab, move the hut somewhere else, and start over again. Dig a new pit, start over. In an urban area, when you're living somewhere that's very high density, lots of people living in a very small space, you won't have the space to move it. And then it needs to be emptied. And that's not a nice job either. So this is a photo that one of the PhD students here, Chris, took from his field site in Zambia. And what they've done here, you can see this. This is the wall of the latrine here. So the toilet itself is in here, but they've dug a hole next to the toilet. All the sludge has come through into that hole, and they're now digging it out. Lots of people are trying to work on new ways to empty latrines, and still a shovel is the best way. Lots of people put lots of what we call solid waste, rubbish if you're British, trash if you're American. Lots of that goes down your pit latrine, and then you end up with lots of that being challenging for emptying. So if you want to just use a vacuum truck like we might do for a septic tank, in this country it just doesn't work because of all that solid waste. So some poor guys with some shovels is basically the answer. And you can hopefully see with these guys, they've actually got gloves, they've got respirators, they've got overalls, they've got wellies. They're quite protected from the waste that they have, but this is a very good example. This has received a lot of external investment, these teams, so they are able to have this. There's lots of people who work without any protection. They're probably working at night because being a pit emptier is a taboo, so their health and safety implications for those are just like nothing we could ever imagine. So this is the emptying. This photo, this is what happens before they remove those barrels. In this particular case in Zambia, they wash them down and they just wash everything onto the yard. And this photo kind of makes me smile in a kind of ironic way, because you can see this is someone's washing. I mean, look at this pretty dress here, and then this is just feces. It's being washed all over their yard. It's just horrible. So, and then once it's been emptied, where's it taken? So this is a photo in another photo from Ghana of a pit, of a sludge truck that's emptied some pits, emptying the waste. This is actually into a formalised emptying site, although you wouldn't really know it. But there's plenty of examples globally of sludge trucks emptying waste illegally. There was a good case in Port-au-Prince in Haiti, where the sludge trucks picking up the sludge, going away, coming back half an hour later to pick up another load of sludge because they get paid by the load. But it was a 2-hour round trip to the official sludge dumping site. So what was happening to that sludge in that half an hour in between them coming to pick up loads, we just don't know, we just don't really want to think about. So I hope I've given you a bit of a picture as to why sanitation in urban areas in low-income countries is such a challenge. And this is why the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation issued their Reinvent the Toilet Challenge. And their challenge was to reinvent the toilet, coming up with a solution that removed germs from human waste, recovering valuable resources like energy, clean water and nutrients, operating completely off the grid without connections to water or sewers or electricity lines, costing less than 5 US cents per user per day, promoting sustainable and financially profitable sanitation services and businesses that operate in poor urban settings, and a truly aspirational next generation product that actually might not just be used in low-income countries, but maybe in a few years' time we could be using here in the UK. So that was the challenge that Gates issued. I mean, in some ways, it's basically a magic box into which you put shit and out of which you get diamonds. So it's certainly a technical challenge, and how much we can meet these criteria is probably still being proven. But Cranfield responded to that challenge, and I'm just going to show you a quick video. Maybe some of you have seen it before, in which case I apologise. But I'll show you a quick video about the solution that we came up with, and then I'll talk you through some of the ideas presented in the video in a bit more detail. But we're quite proud of the video, so it gives quite a nice little summary of where we got to. So I'm hoping this is going to work with the sound. Sound doesn't start quite yet.
I want our own toilets in the house, I told my mama. Don't be silly, she said. We don't have running water, or a sewer. How are we going to have our own indoor toilet? Then one day, a nice man visited in a truck. It was full to the top with shiny new toilets.
Being the toilet man is a job that brings happiness to my customers and one that makes me a living. I have a contract to sell and service the toilets. It's an idea that came from some scientists in England.
We have designed a household-scale sit-down toilet that families will aspire to have in their homes. Crucially, the odour is controlled in the toilet.
It's true, it really doesn't smell, which is great, as we keep it in the house.
Why isn't it smelly? Well, it's a toilet bowl with a rotating ceiling flush. Once the user has finished and closes the lid, it forces the drum to rotate through 270 degrees, keeping a constant smell barrier. The waste then empties into the holding chamber below, without the need for water or power. At the 3/4 turn point, a scraper wipes the drum clean. It's a true flush and forget mechanism. The waste is now in the holding tank. The solids collect at the bottom, while the liquid floats on top. Pure water in vapour form, without any pathogens, then passes into the membrane bundles, where it's driven along by a sweet gas. The vapour then enters the large columns at the back of the toilet, which contain nano-coated hydrophilic beads. As the vapour passes over the beads, it condenses. The pathogen-free water then drips down a collection pipe and drains into a water tank, which doubles as a step at the front of the toilet.
This water is very handy. We use it for cleaning and for watering our plants.
The dewatered sludge, which is collected at the bottom of the angled tank, is carried away by an Archimedes screw. The screw lifts the solid waste to the top of a misting chamber, a tunnel that drops at 90 degrees. As the waste falls and lands, it is coated by a paraffin wax that stops the pathogens and odours from escaping while letting the solid waste dry out.
Every week, the man comes to empty our toilet.
I remove the waste bag and take it with others to the thermal processing plant. They pay me regularly for this service, and I deliver batteries if needed to power the toilet.
There is a reliable off-grid power source for the toilet also, human power.
If the battery is low, my brother charges it by riding the bicycle, or I use a special hand crank. Easy.
Under my contract, I service each toilet every 6 months. I replace the spray, take the membranes away for regeneration, and put in new sets. I can also produce a fertilizer to sell by recovering the nitrogen-based nutrients collected on the toilet bead module, which I remove during the service. This extra income means I charge my customers under 5 US cents per user per day.
Which are pennies well spent, as this one toilet has changed the lives and improved the health of my whole family.
The difference one toilet can make.
Okay, I hope that gave a sort of bit of an introduction. So where we are in this project at the moment is we made that video right at the end of our first phase of work, and we've just recently, in September, received the funding for our second phase. So what I'm going to do is go through some of those in a little bit more detail and explain some of the differences that we now have for the second phase. So the first thing to talk about is the flush, which is working, hopefully going to work exactly as you saw in the video. So with the rotating bowl and then the scraper, which should keep the bowl nice and clean, providing a constant odour barrier. We realise that we're probably even going to think about have to think about how the air flows around the toilet so that we don't capture nasty smelling stuff on the inside and flick it back out to the outside when the bowl rotates. So that's certainly one thing that we're going to be thinking about going forwards. And we're really excited to be working with the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa, who've also got some great ideas they're sharing with us as well. So that's the flush. Then the membranes, you saw in the video, but just to sort of give you a photo of what they actually look like in real life. So the membranes are all hollow fibre membranes, so I'm sure most of you know what a membrane is, but just in case, a membrane is basically like a sieve, and in this case the holes are really, really, really small, and our membranes are wound up into tubes, and that means when we put a vacuum pressure through the middle of the tube, we can take water through the tube, through the walls of the tube onto the inside of the membrane. What's particularly novel about these membranes is because the holes are actually really small, the only thing that can go through them is water, because water is actually the smallest component of human waste. So that means we can take just water through the walls of the membrane, and that allows us to dewater the human waste. The water, as explained in the video, is really useful in the home. People are paying money for water, potentially having to walk to collect water anyway, so water is very valuable. We're looking at different types of membrane at the moment. So we're doing trials with two types of membranes, microporous and dense. So the microporous membranes, because the holes are a little bit bigger, we might get some volatile organics passing through the membranes as well. With the dense membranes, literally there are no holes in the membranes at all, so it's just water molecules are just literally going through the kind of structure of the membrane wall to the inside of the membrane. The tests we've done so far, fairly obviously we're getting much greater, there was a label on that axis. There it is. Yeah, so the fluxes we're getting so far are much greater with the microporous membranes, with the dense membranes, fairly obviously. So, because obviously the holes in the, it's very much harder for the water to pass through the dense membrane. So at the moment, this is a trade-off which we need to get to the bottom of, and one of the ways that we're going to do is with some field work in Ghana in January, and we're going to be asking people with that water, what do they want to use it for? Do they want it to be absolutely clean, pure water, or are they happy for it to be a bit smelly? There'll be no pathogens in it, but it will be fine for sort of washing and that type of thing, but it might have some volatile organics in it. So we're going to try and get to the bottom of that problem with the field work in Ghana, because obviously it's going to use up more energy driving water through the dense membranes if that's what we decide to go for. The beads are needed to recondense the water, because the water is going through the membranes as a vapour, so we need the beads to recondense the water. We'll be looking at different coatings for these beads. So we'll be looking at both hydrophobic and hydrophilic coatings. So as you can see with the hydrophobic coatings, as the water vapour approaches the beads, it eventually beads up into large droplets that will run off. With the hydrophilic coatings, the water is attracted to the beads. So, and you can see the amount of water retained and the amount of water drained with the hydrophobic and the hydrophilic beads. And what we've actually concluded is it's best to use a mixture of the hydrophobic and hydrophilic beads, because the hydrophilic beads attract the water and the hydrophobic beads cause it to bead up and run off and drain out of the bead column. This is actually inspired by this guy. He's a Namib desert beetle, and he's quite a clever guy. So you can see he's got all these little bumps on his back, and those bumps are hydrophilic. Those bumps are hydrophilic, so they attract the water, and then the space in between the bumps is hydrophilic. Hydrophobic. Hydrophilic on the bumps, hydrophobic on the rest of him. So that means that when the water's attracted to the bumps, it then drains off, falls into beads and drains off, and actually it drains, the way his back is constructed, it drains into his mouth, so he gets something to drink. So that's quite clever, but also quite a useful inspiration. The one component that we didn't really think about much when we first started was the screw. We've sort of got membranes, coatings, brilliant, but we hadn't really thought about how we're going to get the solids out of the chamber. So this screw ended up coming in quite last minute, this Archimedes screw, and it's actually much harder to engineer than we sort of initially first thought. So that's a real key component of work in the next phase, working out how to get that screw operating. So it is picking up the solids, hopefully providing a little bit more drying, and pushing them out the other end of the screw in a consistent manner. So the thing that's really new is, and in the video you saw that the solids were being coated, I think with the paraffin wax. So that component, the Gates Foundation weren't that keen on, and we were struggling to make it work. So what we're now doing in the next phase is we're working with a company, another Gates grantee in the US called RCI International, who've developed a gasifier. And the gasifier will allow us to dry and combust the solids in the toilets. So that will convert them fully to ash. So we're really excited to work with these guys because they've already got this developed, they've already tested it with human waste, and we're expecting one to land in Cranfield at the end of this month for testing in our energy labs here. So that kind of completes the process of treating all the waste. So we've basically converted human waste to pure water, which is useful, and ash, which isn't that useful, but at least won't have any pathogens on it and can just be disposed of quite simply with solid waste as usual. It was very important that the toilet looked attractive. You recall one of the conditions was it had to be an aspirational product. And this is our current design for the toilet. We'll probably be removing the beads and replacing them with the gasifier. So probably get a little bit bulkier, but we're hoping to keep it sort of that scale. It really is something that can be fitted in the home so that it gives people somewhere dignified to go to the toilet at home without having to go out, without having something outside that could be stolen, etc. And you can see all the components do fit inside the toilet. So you can see the flush in this pale purple colour, and the membrane to these orange things here, the screw, the bead columns, the water reservoir at the front. So all those components do all fit into a quite compact unit. So that's all I was going to talk through today. There is we do have a blog which you can find on that website. So if you want to keep getting regular updates about what we're up to, as we've going to be quite an exciting few months as we're ramping up our experimental work again. So we've got experimental rigs arriving, we've got the gasifier arriving, we've got fieldwork in Garden coming up. So there's quite a lot going on, and we'll be putting it all on the blog if you want to keep following it. We have a hashtag on Twitter. You're very welcome to contact me at any time to ask me questions if you want to get involved. If you've got something you want to know about, then do get in contact with me, and I can put you in touch with the right member of the team. If it's a technical question about a particular aspect, I can put you in touch with the people that are working on that. But of course, I'm ready to answer your questions.